Okay, welcome to this press conference. As always, we have translation. Channel 1, it's English, 2 French, 3 Spanish, and 4 German. And I would like to pass the floor straight to the President, please.
Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the FIFA press conference after a meeting of the Executive Committee yesterday, 20th, and today, 21st of March, about, all in all, more than 8 hours of deliberations and work and decisions. I am very happy to report on the reform process. We are coming to an end of this reform process, and today it was very important to prepare the last points of this reform, which are the amendments to the statutes. And we have had different meetings, but better than I can do it, this is the man who was in charge from the Executive Committee of FIFA since last December to bring to an end these amendments for statutes, and he will inform you accordingly in a few minutes. This is Dr. Theo Zwanziger, member of the FIFA Executive Committee. In the meantime, I will give you some information on some other very important decisions we have taken, and one coming out of the Strategic Committee meeting we have had just 1 month ago concerning the creation of a task force against racism and discrimination. You have already learned that I have taken the initiative to nominate a the chairman on this committee, the president of the FIFA Confederation, Mr. Jeffrey Webb from the Cayman Islands. He has had the opportunity already to speak about his duties. Now we are on the way to work on this task force, and especially to be ready to present to the Congress this year in end of May in Mauritius, relevant proposals, and not only words but actions. And these actions we have to take it on 2 different ways. The one is education, and the other one is repression or sanctions. The one in sanctions, it's easier to realize because it is a matter to give instructions to the different relevant disciplinary or control committees in the national associations by adding, changing, or insisting on the disciplinary code of FIFA, where you have all relevant sanctions, going from a fine or a warning up to the relegation in another league. And on the other hand, what is more important is then the way to go for education. And here we have the best possible platform. And the best possible platform is the 209 associations, members of FIFA, with the thousands and thousands of leagues and millions of matches played. We have also this platform through all the competitions of FIFA. We have the platform on all the development programs, and to introduce this not only idea but this strong fight against discrimination and racism. Naturally, we will call also in the composition of the task force key players in the world, and definitely we have to ask UN, the United Nations, to be with us as we are today with the United Nations in Geneva, where there is a meeting, a seminar, congress on racism, and where I am delivering a speech, but as I'm personally, I cannot be there. The speech will be delivered by the responsible of FIFA's social responsibility group, Adjeki. He will deliver this speech, but you can find this speech will be distributed, or you can have it. And here we are now to go forward step by step. It is a very important part, and I will not disclose more for the time being, because it is a matter, an important matter, and when we come to a solution, or at least it will be the embryo of a solution, but we must be really ready in action. You remember we have had in 2001 in Buenos Aires, we have had a 2-day seminar against racism and discrimination. We have invited from all around the world organizations. They claim they are against racism, they are against discrimination. And what was the outcome? At the end, the outcome was, yes, we are against racism. This is not enough. So we have to find actions and activities, and that we want to do, and we will present it at the Congress in 2 months, it will be 2 months and 1 week. On the other hand, we have also tackled the problem of the match manipulation, but this is an item which has not been now in depth in the Executive Committee this time. But we are working on that. Then the Executive Committee was awaiting the report of the Ethics Committee of FIFA concerning this so-called ISL case. The chairman of the investigatory chamber, Michael Garcia, and the chairman of the adjudicatory chamber, Hans-Joachim Eckert, they were present in the FIFA Executive Committee. They were delivering a report what their activities are. They were answering questions on different items. And they have said the following concerning the ISL case. They informed the Executive Committee that the report has been submitted by the chairman of the investigatory chamber to the chairman of the adjudicatory chamber, who is currently examining it, and the outcome and report to the Executive Committee will be done at the latest on the 15th of April. So we are waiting for that. Finally, we are in a very good mood when we came to have a look on our finances. You will get the financial report. It will be public. You can have it. And you will see that despite the fact that we are in a so-called economic recession, the football, at least at the level where we are working together with all our partners, being marketing partners, television partners, for the World Cup and other FIFA competitions, to ensure that FIFA's development programs can be carried out. We are in a good situation Secretary General can give some more information. Finally, what I want to add at this introduction, it is a question of the Congress that will take place in Mauritius on the 30th and 31st of May, in 2 months' time, and where then these proposals on the reform will be presented. And this brings me back to the point number 1, and it gives me now the pleasure to give the floor to our Executive Committee member, Theo Zwanziger. You have the floor, Dr. Zwanziger.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I will speak German. I feel a bit safer in this language when dealing with such a complex matter, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to take part in this press conference. I'm quite frank in saying that it was very satisfying to accompany this procedure, which started in Zurich some 2 years ago. And since the President announced this work, spanning all the way to the next Congress in Mauritius, where it will eventually come to an end. As a reminder, let me tell you that it is first and foremost the idea to create the necessary basis in the statutes comprising the obligations for all who participate in this work, and to do this work well and in total integrity. In an organization spanning the globe, organization of this importance, this is important to have all these efforts to go successfully into a process that is a democratic process. There's no simple solution right here. When it comes to such a path, you have to take people on board. And FIFA, the national associations, well, it's all human beings with their different cultures, different personalities, different views, different values, and all this has to be brought together to create the necessary unity and force for such a process. And you finally need a qualified majority at a Congress. You do not just need a majority. You must not only be able to accept certain minority positions as well, because otherwise you may not be successful. Therefore, it is a matter of doing the things softly, convincingly, without trying to ram a message home. And also the people from outside who accompany us for good governance. We have the group around Mr. Piet. We have had exchanges with this group to take a look at the elements pertaining to this reform process. The first step, and I remember Budapest, was indeed of paramount importance because it was not possibly seen the same way all over the globe. It was for the first time that we had a very demanding program, and that the people bearing responsibility at all levels, also in the confederations and in the associations, they suddenly had duties to fulfill, which are perhaps not very light. We now have ethics chambers, like in any kind of country, that you have an attorney, you have people monitoring the situation to make sure that all the statutes and regulations are respected, and if this is not the case, to start an action, and this action may then possibly lead to a sanction. So this brings us to the attitude of officials. I mean, on the pitch, everything is transparent. What you see on the pitch, you can see again on TV, and any kind of foul will be sanctioned by the referee. Now that is on the pitch. You don't have the same situation with the officials, not in FIFA, not in other bodies. Hence, it is important to have a control body also with independent personalities. And this applies to the Audit and Compliance Committee. It has to do mainly with financial matters. You have the Ethics Committee monitoring the ethical behavior. And then we have people proposed from outside, people with high competence who have taken these people from outside on board. And after the Budapest Congress, and this brings me to today's decision, there remained a number of items to be discussed and for which we needed an answer. So we didn't say we would prepare a document for Congress or just a document for the FIFA executive. We already started in Budapest a draft for a new set of statutes, and this draft was given to all the national associations. We asked them to look into these new statutes, discuss that with their members, look into that, discuss it. And a few weeks ago, I had the privilege of meeting the general secretaries of the confederations and their legal advisors here in Zurich. We had 10 open points to be discussed, and I would like to comment briefly on how we dealt with these 10 points under the auspices partly of audit and compliance, but also concerning sporting elements. We decided that the duties of the committee members will be looked into by the Ethics Committee. Now, how can you become a member of a committee? Well, there's an election. You have to fulfill certain criteria. And there is the proposal of the integrity check. It is obvious that anybody violating some duties, this person can be taken out of a committee. So people who have violated certain rules cannot be admitted to a certain position. Now, this, I think, is very clear. And when you look at the way football sees itself, you see there's so many people doing so many things totally right. So there was, yes, the will of all 6 confederations to accept this check, this credibility check. So we have a catalog that has to be signed by any candidate for post as a FIFA officer, that he has no police record, that he has no disciplinary record because of some kind of behavior that would run counter to our criteria. And this also must be taken into account by those who elect. And that is correct. You see, there's a number of members of the Executive Committee headed by the President who are elected by Congress, but according to the statutes, there are also members of the Executive Committee who are elected by the confederations. So we are decentralized, as it were, and you cannot talk about reforms at the top if you don't expect that from the member associations. So it's wrong that FIFA would try to behave like a monopoly institution, but we need to trust the people who are highly competent and work in their confederations. Of course, this integrity check will then, of course, have to be presented to FIFA. And it is quite obvious that if there is a doubt whether what has been declared is actually correct and accurate, then the Independent Ethics Committee can look into that particular case. As to the second point, we looked at the composition of the FIFA Executive Committee. We had sports political issues to look into, and it is the privilege of the British associations to have 4, but this will no longer be in the draft. And also this applies to UEFA, and these changes, I presume, will also be taken over by UEFA. When it comes to the Executive Committee, FIFA and I will be very frank about this, because this has been part and parcel of the question raised in the media. This is the proposal raised by Professor Piet, that the independent people, the chairman of the Audit and Compliance Committee and the two chairmen of the Ethics Committee, as they could be observers in the Executive Committee. Now, I did not share your view from the beginning, because I think if you are independent and bring these people, these independent people, into such a body, then they lose their independence. And it is important for us that they're not directly involved in all these processes, that have a certain distance in order to better monitor what is going on. And as German, which you may have noticed I am, I can tell you that our Chancellor would certainly not want to have the President of the Court of Finances in Germany be in Parliament or in the Cabinet of Ministers. So I asked again other people in a similar situation. They said this is not appropriate. They have a different position, and this is one of the few things we could not do for Professor Piet. We talked about the support signatures that are necessary, the age limit, the terms of mandate. Of course, there are dissenting views in this field, and I will not hide my own view. At the beginning of the process is the integrity check. Then during the mandate, there is a supervision by the bodies, ethics committee, etc. This will also have to be laid down in writing for the end of the work. The question is, will you have an age limit? Or will you limit the mandates? And for whom will you limit the mandates? So we have dissenting views, and I very much appreciate the fact that the President said, let's discuss and decide that openly at Congress. Let the associations take that decision. They kicked off this process. Let them speak their minds. Do they want a limitation of the mandate for the President and the members of the Executive Committee and for the most important committees? Or do they want an age limit? Or do they want both? That means that on Mauritius at the Congress we will have a highly interesting discussion and certainly an interesting vote, particularly on these two elements which are very much important for audit and compliance. Now, based on our experience, we can say that for the election of the President, it's good when we have support, when it's not just one association proposing a candidate, but various associations doing that. One, we can have 5 votes from one association, from one confederation, or 10 from 2 confederations. At any rate, Congress will take this decision. At the last Congress already, we took a sports political decision looking into the bids for the World Cups. The decision was taken that Congress will be the one to define the venue of the World Cup, of the following World Cup. It was not based on the statutes. So this meant that in the meantime we had to develop a procedure in which we have a clear competence by the Secretary General and his staff, where of course there's a factual competence to have a sort of a short list that will be produced by the General Secretariat with 2 or possibly 3 bidders, and the Congress will have to say, yes, these are bids which comply with the criteria and the specifications, and then Congress will take this decision. And this also will be included in the revamping of the statutes. We have added a few more precisions to the statutes, making certain elements clear, and that now the statutes of FIFA are modern, are clear, and then we have important elements like racism and corruption. It must be made clear that the basis of FIFA's activities is that we're against all kinds of discrimination. And this point was made very clear. We wanted to have high visibility for the fact that FIFA as a sports organization can do what it has to do. And it was my experience in various positions that FIFA must englobe social intentions and social activities, and it must be able to represent that in a very credible manner. My last comment concerns IFAB. The IFAB football board is the guardian of the laws of the game, is an important body and it has been criticized as to a lack of transparency. And here the decision is clear. IFAB is a self-regulating body, and at UEFA Congress I had the possibility to hear the proposals by the British associations. The IFAB is a conservative body. The laws of the game must be protected, but not protected to death. But it is necessary to give a certain margin for new things. We have had a technical discussion, yes, and whatever is a request to IFAB must be received, and whatever decision, positive or negative, must be able to be understood by the public at large, must be given certain visibility so it can be understood. So I think we have had a good result. We want a good result, and I was DFB president at that time when we started 2 years ago, and indeed it was good to be able to put together what FIFA needs, what will help FIFA. We compared that a few days ago with what we had, and I think that we have done more than even I expected. We're looking forward now to the next Congress, and we hope that the associations will support us and to put on the tracks and put to an end this reform process.
Ich danke.
Theo Zanziger, I thank you very much for your enlightening. I would like to add something important which has to be decided at Congress. We are moving forward to being a totally democratic institution because, as decided at the last Congress, the members of our legal committees, meaning our disciplinary committee, the appeals committee, of the control committee, and the ethics committee, all these members will all be elected by Congress, and the proposed members will be then notified to you in the press release. Then, furthermore, we will have a women elected as member of the executive committee. You may recall that last year we had a sort of cooperation or co-optation with one of these ladies. She's the president of the Burundi Football Federation. She was then elected, and this has to be confirmed this year. But now, and this is where it gets interesting, the Executive Committee will propose to Congress that 2 more ladies are to be co-opted at least for 1 year. So they will be included, they will be co-opted, and FIFA is therefore opening the Executive Committee for more than 1 woman. We will have 3 women, and we still do not fulfill the Olympic quota, but this is an indication that we're on the right track. Now, so much for the subject of reforms and the upcoming Congress. Thank you. 3 of the 5 heads of departments are here. And what the President has already said before I gave you the floor, or before I give you the floor, Becker, yes, I think the speech on racism has been distributed. Yes, I think you have all received now the complete or the comprehensive press release. You can also find it on FIFA's homepage, fifa.com. And you will have to have a wee bit of patience because on Monday the report on ISL was given by Mr. Garcia to Mr. Eckert. 4,000 pages. It will take a few days, and we expect in 3 weeks he will have read the whole file. So please, I will now give you the floor. When you take the floor and get the mic, please say who you are and who you work for. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Ja, Herr Blatter, Michael Assem von der
Michael Assem, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Mr. Blatter, I have a question. The case of ISL, this report of the Ethics Committee, what are the consequences or the conclusions from this case, which was quite a burden for FIFA and also for you, Mr. President? I said in my opening remarks, and the head of media has repeated that, the Executive Committee of FIFA in the last half of last year asked the Independent Ethics Committee not to look into the legal aspects only, but the moral aspects, and the committee has done precisely that. But it has not forwarded a report yet to the Executive Committee of FIFA because this report has been given by the head of the investigatory chamber to the head of the adjudicatory chamber. So we have to wait now until this report has been duly studied, and Mr. Eckert, the chairman of this tribunal, said that the Executive Committee and the public will be informed by April 15 about the result. Microphone, please, sir. You said at the outset that the Executive Committee was questioned by the Ethics Committee. The situation was the following. The Executive Committee could ask questions to these two gentlemen as to their work, but we had no specific questions raised as to the content of the ISL case. So nothing was said as to the content of the procedure. Mr. Eckert now has the file. And then the question, for instance, how about the hotline? How do you get the information? But as to the content proper of the ASL case, no questions were raised. I said that, and I repeat it again. We will have some information 2 to 3 weeks from now. Next question, please. The very back.
Ja, das ist auch gut, ist auch gut. Okay, bitte.
Heuberger vom Schweiz.
Heuberger, Swiss TV. As to the reform, the age limit, is that a question still pending, or has anything been decided? Okay, I'll repeat that. We will need, at the end of the career of an official, will there be an age limit? Will there be a limitation of mandate? This will be decided by Congress. There are dissenting views in the various confederations. UEFA, for instance, said we will have an age limit for everybody and have a limitation of mandates for the president. And then you have other confederations who say, no way, we don't want a limitation of age. That would be a discrimination. Why should we have an age limit? And then if you look at the FIFA Exco, you have some very young people. Prince Ali is 31 years old. So don't overlook the major differences we have in age. Hence, we believe that we will leave it to Congress to decide. We will draft a proposal to Congress. Congress will debate and decide either in the favor of an age limit for the president, the members of the executive committee, for instance, or they will decide on an age limit and a limitation of mandates, either or, could be both. And the president and the members of the executive committee actually do believe that, yes, we will need a positive evaluation now. How this exactly will be decided, I have no idea. You will be at the Congress and you will be able to follow the discussion. Jean-François, Handelszeitung. Mr. Blatter, if I look at the 7 fundamental requests voiced by Mr. Piet in the Governance Committee, then you have not fulfilled either. There's no central integrity check for the EXCO members, nor is there confirmation by Congress of executive committee members, nor do we have 2 independent members in the EXCO. You have not mentioned with one single word how the transparency will be brought about as to the remuneration of yourself and members of the executive committee. None of these 7, or hardly any of, or perhaps for one point, has been answered. Is Mr. Piet all still on board, or has he stepped down from his office? Well, I don't know if you actually listened to what Mr. Zwanziger has said. And then please, Mr. Zwanziger, repeat. Everything has been said. Mr. Zwanziger, I think all you have to do, you just wanted to make a statement. Don't you want to listen? I think I listened intently. You have explained many things, why you do not want to follow suit to what Mr. Piet has requested. Well, is he still on board, or is he stepping down from this function because he was totally neutralized? Okay, let me tell you something. I have been able to work in a very constructive and good manner with Mr. Piet over the last 2 years, and you probably are thinking about the 6th February report. You certainly can find it on the internet. If you take a close look and read it closely, then you see that Mr. Piet praises the reform process of FIFA. And Mr. Piet, at the very end of his statement, has outlined certain points at the end of his presentation, but he cannot say he is FIFA. He is not. He is just a counselor. Since when a counselor can implement 100% of what they want? Because an association as FIFA, the way this is built and the way it cooperates with associations and needs a 3/4 of a majority, please don't forget that fact. Mr. Piet needs no 3/4 majority. He says, I want this. And I just told you that these 2 executive committee members, they don't want that. Even these 2 people in the executive committee don't want that. And Mr. Piet is not the ultimate wisdom. And we have people who understand compliance and audit and who are trying in a democratic process to come to a good result and to transparency. And what Mr. Professor Piet is proposing over the last 2 years, that has been important. To be accompanied by him through 2 years is important. And you cannot simply measure the results, whether these 2 people are on board or not. They don't even want to be in the executive committee. And you cannot say that the integrity check has to be done at this or that level. That's not decisive. The decisive element is that the integrity check is carried out and there's a control via FIFA. For this reason, I consider, and I'm ready to speak about that with Professor Piet yet again, I think that in the framework of the overall context are neglectable. I am not doing it in such a way. I certainly don't believe that he will give up this valuable work for us. He would then have to justify that. And I can certainly discuss that publicly with you. Okay, we can do that right here if you want. Mr. Brian Dunbar.
Graham Dunbar from the AP. A change of subject. One of your favourite subjects, Mr. President. Qatar. In the last month, we just seem to see so many more people giving opinions, but slightly contradictory opinions coming from FIFA even, of whether it's medical committee or the EXCO or the organising committee who's going to decide, and more people giving opinions. It's creating this feeling of sort of organised confusion in some ways. It's also happening at the time of election campaigning in Asia, where it's becoming an issue, which Qatar is involved in. What is happening regarding the organisation of the World Cup in Qatar? Is FIFA losing control of the debate, or is this a plan that the debate has been stepped up in recent weeks?
We are not losing control on the World Cups, being the World Cup 2014, 2018, or 2022, or the past World Cups. Concerning the World Cup 2022, discussions have started at the time when the decision was taken, and then at a sudden, people has realized that when playing in summer, it will be very difficult because it is very hot. But the basic principles on the attribution of the World Cup and the list of requirements that have been established by the FIFA Executive Committee was very clear and has not been changed in the meantime. It is still the same. The World Cup, FIFA's World Cup 2022, is a competition with 32 teams, 64 matches, and have to be played in June, July. And this principle has never been put into question by the organizer, those they have been given the responsibility and the right to organize. It means Qatar, and has not been put into question by FIFA's Executive Committee. Therefore, it still stands. If there should be some move, the move must come from Qatar to the FIFA Executive Committee. All the other rumors or information or tendencies to play when and where, these are not relevant for FIFA's Executive Committee stand on the decision taken on the 2nd of December 2010.
Last two questions, or yes, please.
Ich bin Derim Shabani von Albin VCA, das ist albanische Presse in
I'm from Albania. Mr. Blatter, 1 month ago, you received the president of the Kosovo Association, and you said that Kosovo, well, you mentioned, was Kosovo mentioned in the deliberations? It was not just a letter by the president of the association, which I received, but it was actually the Kosovo ambassador here in Switzerland who brought to me a letter from Prime Minister Taci from Kosovo. And in this letter, he mentioned that he is surprised by the fact that Kosovo was promised to be able to play football, but if to wish to play in their own country, they need the authorization by Serbia. And he indicated quite clearly in his letter that this is basically an unacceptable situation. I have informed the Executive Committee about this letter. We have discussed this issue, and the Executive Committee decided to stick to the decision and to give a mandate to the President, that is me, to mediate between Kosovo and Serbia to try to do away with this prohibition. And I have accepted this mandate to mediate, and I will try to do it.
Last, please.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to the Qatar issue again. It's just based on something you said in one of the interviews you gave this week, where you said that Qatar know that if they do ask for a change of timing, that they risk that another of the 2022 candidates could bring a legal challenge before FIFA. What exactly do you think would happen in that case if there was a legal challenge? Would Qatar be provisionally suspended as hosts immediately, or would they wait until the legal challenge is completed?
I am not a prophet. I am not a prophet what's happened, but I have not used the words. They have been reproduced somewhere. I have only said it is Qatar that have to ask if something has changed. And then I have put a question mark. But what would happen then when they will ask it? That's all. And now the rest is an interpretation, but I am not a prophet to say what will happen. For the time being, they haven't asked. So let us be where we are, and let's work on the World Cup 2014. There is enough to do for this competition, and then play the 18, and then go to the 22. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. There is also a clear statement that you, I think, received on that. So, but anyway, thank you very much, and see you next.
Ladies and gentlemen, may
Yes.
I just thank
Sorry.
you for your ongoing interest. Let me tell you that together with Theo Zwanziger, we can say that our reform process is on a good track. But it's now up to the Congress to make the final decision. But finally, the remaining points of the big list that we have been suggested or recommended to accept, they are in. They are in. Perhaps not in the form what everybody was hoping. But for us, FIFA, it was important to have a unity yesterday and today in my executive committee, and I tell you, this is not always easy. And this time, it was a unity. So thank you for your interest. See you again. Enjoy the rest of the week. And the over 80 matches, they will be played during the next days for the qualification of the World Cup in Brazil. Good luck to everybody. Thank you.